Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
So I said hello in the middle of that yes. Maybe we should just find a cutoff point.
Hi.
Okay. That works for me. Okay, so we all know we're partly chill, partly illiterate, whatever.
So that
scratch
did
that.
stick.
Partly chill, 100% illiterate. Not partly. We have some even more viewers.
Wow.
Welcome.
Hi. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
You know, reading fantasy, especially high fantasy, does make me feel illiterate sometimes because I will be sounding out the words as though I'm in second grade all over again.
Oh my God! Coming up again. This is a pattern as we're jumping to the end of what we should be talking about. But there's a name that is. I wrote it down.
Oh, I know what you're talking about exactly.
Yeah, it's.
Ingeloacastimizillion.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Who wouldn't know how to pronounce that, right?
Say it 10 times fast. Say it 3 times fast.
Say it 1 time slow. Right? Any of those is as hard as the other. But okay, so we are beginning in chapter 18. This is going to be chapter 18 through chapter 20 and the epilogue after that. But this section that we read is probably my favorite so far. Oh. I loved it. That's why I send you a text you gotta read.
Yeah.
This is
get to the epilogue after chapter 20 because it's so good. And I was like, okay, that at least we know that's our stopping point because once you have those feelings, stop.
When
I want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a water cooler type of ending.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so back before the days of the internet and Reddit and everything, everyone would discuss the last episode of a big TV show.
If we worked together in an office that had a water cooler, I'd tell you, hey.
Yeah, you should see
meet me at the water cooler.
Yeah, it's kind of a phrase that has fallen out. The newer generations won't know what the water cooler, how important the water cooler is because that's where everyone was like, oh my God, did you see what happened on, I don't know, what's the show back in the 90s? Twin Peaks?
Friends? I don't know.
Friends. No one's getting around the water cooler to discuss the same thing. I mean, Friends is popular, but it's not a water cooler. It's not a cliffhanger.
Forget about the book. I can talk to you about that for an hour.
Yes,
because I disagree.
Yes,
Do
but
you
there's
remember the first time you watched Friends and all the drama and the cliffhangers in these 20-minute episodes? Rachel's pregnant.
No, because I grew
Ross's
up in Greece.
Sweater. What?
I grew up in Greece, and that was the only show.
Phoebe's having her babies twins. What?
Well, yes, but did they name one of them Ingeloacastimizillions?
I think you got that. I think you nailed it.
Did I? Okay. I tried to make it sound all weird, but I actually got the right one. Maybe that's how he picks names. If he's like, I'm just going to put a bunch of random...
It's instinctual, so I feel like it comes from somewhere deep within. But it doesn't make sense, but it's in our lizard brains somewhere, that sound.
Yeah. I've realized by this point that somebody who's just joining us has no idea what the hell we're even talking about. We're reading the Crystal Shard for the first time, so no spoilers.
Yeah, we're a little over halfway through, so...
Chapter 18 to be specific.
You're going to be getting spoilers, but we don't want spoilers because we're reading this for the very first time. So, yeah, if you feel like sticking around and having some spoilers, welcome. If not, we have all our old videos too, where I hope you can make sense.
Yeah, try and piece together. Do your homework because we certainly haven't. So, chapter 18 is where we start.
Yes.
Bigrin's house.
Mm-hmm.
This chapter is the first one to take up 2 pages in my notebook.
Really?
First of all, it was huge. You might not have noticed if you're reading, but when it comes to the audiobook, it was 40 minutes long, this chapter, compared to the average 15 or 20 minute.
Okay.
So it was 2 chapters.
Well, we got a lot of information in there and a whole few battle scenes.
Oh, yeah. This
so
chapter
that was
18
really fun.
is my favorite so far because it was just the heads were rolling. It was
Literally.
really violent. First off, I wrote the Verbig are making kleftico. Now we're gonna go on a bit of a tangent. So, like I said, I grew up in Greece. In Greek history, during the occupation during Turkish occupation, there was these band of thieves. They were called kleftes, thieves, and so in order to not get noticed, they were, they didn't want to subjugate themselves to the Turkish government, so they would, live a nomadic life, sort of away, and the way they would feed themselves is by stealing food and cooking it in a way to where they wouldn't get noticed. So underground in caves, whatever. So kleftiko is a recipe of lamb that is meant to be slow cooked and cooked in like underground in a ditch.
No smoke, no smell, no signal. So kleftiko.
Yeah, so it seemed like
the thieves, cooking.
Thieves or thieves lamb or something like that. Anyway, that's what it seemed like they were making. And I was like, I was so hungry as I was reading this too, and I got some lamb in the fridge. That's what they're doing, sitting in a cave and making mutton stew or whatever.
And you're just salivating over this.
Yeah, it's because it's so vivid. It's like they're making this. It's like you're just reading. It's like a cookbook when you're reading. It's like, they were stewing up a lamb.
I do like the way he describes everything. I think the writing is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But forget the cooking. I'm here for the fighting.
Right.
Dritz and Wolfgar and Guinevere still around. Guinevere's a boy.
What?
Guinevere's a boy. Okay, so Guinevere, the panther that comes to Dritz's aid, when being called by Dritz, is a boy, because so far the gender hasn't ever been no pronouns have been used, and we somehow had always assumed it was a girl panther, but on a page, and I saved it somewhere, it says Guinevere something something, his powerful jaws. So Guinevere's a boy.
I did not pick up on that. I guess we just assumed that it was
I think Guinevere, and we're thinking Gwyneth, and we thought it was a girl's name.
Yeah, but it's not like it's spelled Guinevere. It's G-U...
G-W-Y.
Or G-H-U. So it's spelled...
Again.
G-U-E-N...
Oh, you're right. Gwen. G-U-E-N-H-W-Y-V-A-R.
It would have been perfect. I would have known how to pronounce it even better if there was an N in front of it. Like Ngwen.
Ngwen.
Yeah.
Well, that's another one of those words. It took some while to be comfortable, speaking it. Guinevere. Because you have to read it a few times. Aegis Fang.
Yeah, lots of
okay.
Interesting names.
So his powerful jaws, Guinevere, is a boy panther.
Okay. That's going to take some time to get used to in my head. Because he's been a girl this whole time. And I didn't even notice until you just pointed out to me now. So this is just, for real, my live reaction.
I was excited. I was that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where I was like, ooh, pronoun. First pronoun used for Guinevere. So, yeah, I caught that very quickly.
Okay.
So that answers a question we didn't know we had. Okay, you want to talk about the battles?
Yes. Yeah, I mean... I just wrote a quote here, like one of the first ones when things just start to kick off. The drow wasted no time in cutting an ear-to-ear smile into the giant's throat.
Yeah.
Ear-to-ear smile.
I thought, we're talking Joker, and
like
then,
a Joker,
and then
yeah.
As soon as he says throat, I was like, oh, it's so much worse because of all the arteries just... Dritz is brutal. He is terrifying because we've got Wolfgar, Hulk smash with the hammer. Not Hulk smash, but, he's got the hammer. He's throwing it. He's catching it. He's, crushing, swinging it and lifting these giants off of the ground with the might of his swings.
Blunt force.
Yes. And then Dritz is just this cold, calculated killer with blades, and I just feel like...
Sticking
It just...
death by 1,000 cuts.
It just hits differently. And I think they're both powerful in their own way. And I love that you had the two of them fighting side by side. So as you're reading it, you get to see the bashing. you get to see the knifing, and
Yeah.
it just has two very different feelings between their not even style, just like the weight of their attacks.
Yeah, there's a part at some point where it's like describing like giants getting their teeth smashed in by Wolfgar, and then Driz goes up to one of them and starts chopping off his fingers like he was like moving the like windshield wipers, and it's like I just imagine slices of his fingers coming off.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah,
Because I feel like that's him toying with them, because he has more than a dozen times proven his efficiency. So when he chooses to hurt his enemy like that, it just shows he's toying with them. He has all the time in the world. He's like Guinevere playing with its prey.
Oh yeah, and it says here Guinevere and Driz too. Like, apparently they go for the groin.
Yes,
a few times.
I thought that was a little unnecessary because it was just visceral. Oh my gosh, because there was a couple times where Dritz, sliced the hamstring, stabbed the back of the leg, and you
cripple them.
You can tell that he's getting, almost everywhere: throat, chest, back, leg, thigh, whatever. And then you just get like the boom groin shot, and I was just like
claws just.
And then Guinevere, so they're pissed. They are real angry about the giants, the Verbeeg, coming out and planning to attack 10 towns and having already killed 2 dwarves.
Well,
in the
they
previous
don't
chapters
they don't know about the plan to attack 10 towns until this chapter when they take they grab
You're right.
Because
it's an orc.
It's an orc. Okay, yeah.
So that part they didn't know during the battle. That information came at the end when they were interrogating the orc.
Yeah, they had some.
So this is just them being mad about 2 dwarves.
Yeah, this is just revenge, and and it's like they're just on a rampage. Going in the first room, it's like okay, there's 2 of them. You take these 2, I'll take the and then that's done. Okay, the next room. Now there's 6 of them.
Yeah.
And I remember in the previous chapter, Wolfgar was like, "This is risky, but I'll follow him anywhere." Mm-hmm. But I wasn't on that same page. I was like, "No, just go ahead." And in this one,
it gets brought up again.
Yeah,
because they're going into a tunnel. Dritz tells him go into the tunnel and lead off these Verbeeg.
Yeah, but the thing is, at this point in this chapter, I was like kind of on Wolfgar, where I was like, Driz, you are kind of pushing it, like Jesus, like it's like you can only.
It was intense.
Like it's almost as if he was going on a gambling streak,
yes.
Playing craps, and I'm like, at some point you're gonna hit Snake Eyes, like. Quit while you're ahead. Like I was worried.
Yeah, he definitely seemed like he was on a rampage. And
doing risky stuff too.
Yeah, it can be scary because you might overestimate your ability or underestimate the enemy or the situation, and then you get.
Well, he was also kind of like not even taking it as seriously because he was just sitting there eating the lamb of the dead, like he was stopping to eat like.
Oh yeah, on the end of his sword or lance.
Yeah. He was stabbing it and like.
He had like a piece of lamb that he was just eating, and then a Verbeeg comes and he doesn't even
he's like eating it as he's like fighting,
taking bites. I can't imagine taking bites, chewing, swallowing, eating food while you're under attack. Like, wouldn't you imagine your nerves are so high that I feel like your stomach shuts down. Yeah.
How can you think of food at a time like this?
So it exactly shows how comfortable he is in that. He thrives in that situation.
Yeah, and there's a point where Wolfgar's like, okay, going ahead. He's like, wait, where's Driz? And he looks back, and he's all the way in the back. And he even stops at some point to look at some treasure.
Yeah. Well, again, that was after most of them had already been killed, because then they wanted to go check what they had in the caves.
Yeah, and I guess this is a D&D thing, so it's like that's
part
of the
you got to stop and
get the loot. That's standard.
Ooh, the other thing during that battle towards the end is Guinevere is so intelligent, where he is chasing the Verbeeg that was the last survivor, besides Bigrin. Bigrin sends out this Verbeeg to go get a message to Akar Kessel to say, we're being attacked. This is a situation. Everybody's dead. We're out of troops. Whatever. Verbeeg takes off. Dritz has Guinevere go and take down that Verbeeg, and this panther is just so calculating, where Verbeeg is running up along a body of water, and Guinevere senses there's a strange shape, like a log, in the water.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm thinking it's a crocodile. Right?
Yeah, it was the lone one by itself.
Or he's going to trip over the log, or it's a crocodile, because sometimes they look like logs. So Guinevere literally leads this orc down the path that it chooses, and it lands and falls into the water and tries to get a handhold on this log, because Guinevere executes it perfectly, and of course Verbeeg lands exactly where Guinevere wanted. Tries to get a handhold, and it's a freaking 50-foot long snake. It's a giant.
I think I might have.
I don't think they use the word anaconda. And so you're like, so now we also have monsters to deal with, because that's insane.
Yeah, I remember reading that too, and I was like, I totally forgot about. I even
you probably
wrote it down,
blocked it out.
Because so much happened. It's incredible. Like you said, the final Verbeeg gets taken down by a water snake, and it's not even it just Guinevere was using.
It's as big as a trunk of a tree.
Yeah, he didn't I guess planned it that way. Didn't want to take care of the Verbeeg. Just knock it in. You take care of him.
Didn't even have to so smart. Didn't even have to do an attack, just by using intelligence.
Yeah, don't use my energy.
Yeah, no problem. So that was something I took note of, because I said I wonder if we'll start seeing a little bit more wild creatures, little monsters coming through this book, because so far we haven't seen monsters. We've just been seeing the different races, the giants, the ice giants, the orcs, the dwarfs,
pretty much
etc.
Verbal creatures.
Yes, right.
I guess is the big difference.
And they're all in.
Yeah, because it's we say race. I mean, what's the difference between an orc and a creature? Well, I guess just anything that can speak and communicate, as opposed to just being a feral.
Lives in a camp or is capable. No, not even goblins and such. So something that's verbal or capable of speaking, I guess. So I'm very curious to see if that starts getting to be introduced, because I love monsters. I love reading about monsters. I love all the brilliant ideas of different types of monsters and how they can just be these terrifying beasts. And I don't know. I love that. Yeah,
and then we're still on the same chapter, because this was huge. But Wolfgar, before they went down to finish off or to confront Bigwin or something, he shouted something in his own language.
Yes.
Now Drizzt asked him what he was talking about, and he said something like,
I have that bookmarked. And so a moment first, insisted Drizzt, when the giants charged you in the tunnel, you yelled something in your home tongue, I believe. What was it you said? And Wolfgar laughed heartily. An old elk tribe battle cry, he explained. Strength to my friends and death to my foes. Drizzt eyed the barbarian suspiciously and wondered just how deep ran Wolfgar's ability to fabricate a lie on demand.
Yeah. So I even wrote it down. It's probably a lie. So he probably said something else.
Yes. What?
What did he say? And don't tell us, by the way. That's a rhetorical question. We don't actually want you to give the answer. But
it sounds like nonsense. Prain de krabag keiki rendere bejokt iglokes gron. So it's a lengthy phrase. And so I want to have that bookmark, so I feel like that's got to come back around. We need an answer to that. That cannot be left alone. Oh, and then at the end of the battle, the two of them are exhausted. Wolfgar, Drizzt are absolutely, especially Wolfgar, wiped out. They're exhausted. They've expended their limits. and all of a sudden there's a big crashing at the door, like a battle ram is crushing the doors to break in to the room that they're at. And who is it? It's Bruno and the dwarves, and they're coming to fight. But they're late, so I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
because
they're late to the party.
They're kind of teasing each other like, oh, you had all the fun for yourself over there. You can save us a little action.
Well, actually, before all that happened, they did confront Bigrin.
Who?
Wulfgar and Drizzt.
Yes. So
And
this is at the end. I skipped.
Yeah, you skipped a little bit. So because, we mentioned it earlier. Like we skipped earlier too. We never go in order.
Guinevere goes after the messenger, takes down the messenger, and then while Wulfgar and Drizzt are taken on Bigrin, which is not a Verbeeg. We find out he's an ice giant, so he's monstrous.
Right, so he is an ice giant, and so I guess he's like. It seems like he's winning for a bit, and then he just dies suddenly.
Well, I wasn't expecting that because he was taking all the shots. I mean, every hit from Aegis Fang, so Wulfgar's hammer, and then even Drizzt stabs in the chest. All these kinds of scrapes and blows, to his chest, to his
he's just
head.
tanking them.
And he's fine. So I'm imagining just this huge giant.
Yeah. This is what I think happened.
Where to him, it feels like bug bites.
Yeah. Well, okay, so what happened was, at some point, it says Drizzt stuck one of his scimitars into his chest, and then Wulfgar threw Aegis...
At a later point, yeah.
Yeah, and it got stuck there. And then the hammer hit him in the chest.
And drove it a little deeper. And it scratched his...
Yeah, it seems like he was doing just fine, but then he just fell dead.
Yeah, those two hits together drove the sword in or the knife in deeper, and then it said something about cutting some cardiac tissue or such. So it took some time for him to die. He looked like he was reeling up. Like he took the blow from Aegis Fang, the knife went in deeper, and this guy's ready to take out Wulfgar because now Wulfgar doesn't have his hammer. So here he comes, and he manages to take a couple strides, and his heart gives out and just drops.
You know what it reminded me of? Spoiler alert, the ending of Kill Bill 2.
Yes, the 5 foot.
The 5 foot where it's just take 5 steps and then just dead.
Yes.
That's kind of how it was.
But I just picture a tree falling in the forest, just
crunch, everything, the window shaking. By the way, if you hear the window shaking, we've got filming this in a storm going on. So
if the power goes out, if we have to cut and splice in and edit to continue this conversation, that's why there's a big storm.
But yeah, so then Bruno shows up and is like, "Well, you didn't save any action for me, but there's an orc that's
they capture an orc,
half amputated or whatever, and they're tell us what you know," and he's like, "Haha, you don't stand a chance. They're coming. You're too late," type of. And he's right, because pretty much the next thing that happens is we go back to Crishol Tirith.
Wait. So before that, though, the orc isn't really saying everything, and they're torturing him, and they end up calling Regis, and we hadn't seen Regis in a really long time.
Forgot about him.
several chapters, he was left at 10 Towns enjoying his life, so we hadn't seen him for quite some time until this chapter where Bruno reaches out to him to have him use his very special little necklace.
Yeah. We get to see a little bit more of that in the next chapter,
and that's when they get all the information out of the orc to find out about Ekar Kessel, the amount of troops, and the incoming attack on 10 Towns.
Yeah, which it sets a lot of things in motion, because now that they know, they can. It shakes things up because everyone's. It's not just that they're going to prepare, because as we see, there's arguing, just like there was with the barbarian invasion, but there's a lot of character.
Speaking of the arguing, they're trying to warn the leaders of 10 towns at the meeting, where they've got all of them together again. And they're not seeing eye to eye. They're not listening to Regis. Brunor's there too, and they're just like, they're thinking that this is like a political tactic for other leaders to take power or to dominate, other towns. And so they're really not paying attention to the warning. They're not taking it seriously. They think it's some type of a play. So, since it worked so well last time, Regis hops up on the table, has his little pendant necklace at the ready. But what's his face of the Tonga town? It's not coming to me now. He's like, hey.
Let's see if I wrote his name down or something.
It'll come to me. And he goes, hey, this, nobody look at the little halfling. We're not going to fall for your tricks again, because he remembers agreeing too easily to the first plan when 10 Towns was being attacked by the barbarians, and we just had come up with the plan for them to all work together, and get their defenses together. And so for some reason he has like this fuddled memory, and he's like, no, don't listen to him, don't look at him. I'm not falling for your tricks.
La 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 la.
yeah, literally. And so I thought it was really funny because, first of all, of course, it makes everything more difficult. But I thought it's funny because Regis, like, absolutely blushes. I think he just, like, he colors out of, like, just being put on the spot. And he wasn't expecting that. So now what does he do? So it seems like the leaders of 10 Towns are not open to listening and preparing this time around. Which is actually terrifying because Akar Kessel's troops are way, way more than the initial barbarian attack.
Yeah, which the barbarian attack, they barely survived that.
Right.
With, casualties and with, So, yeah, the people of 10 Towns are arguing. It seems, though, that when it comes to, like, the main core characters, they're like... Their relationship is getting more complicated. First off, Wolfgar finally trusts Guinevere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was petting Guinevere.
Yeah, and secondly, now his Wolfgar's indentured servitude is no longer like he just kind of like I'm done with this. He's like, but you're not done. Like, well, says who? I'm done.
Yeah, Bruno tried to kind of...
I paid my debt.
Yeah, say something along the lines of... Something to tell him what to do. And Wolfgar's like, nope, no more. Nope, not for me. And even though technically his, time of servitude is not up, Bruno just respected...
He's like, it is up now.
Down. Yeah.
It's kind of like...
And he's proven himself.
Yeah, it's like a you'll know when you're ready type thing.
Right.
It's like, you're ready when I see that you're ready. Yeah. And when you strap on a pair is when you're ready.
Yeah. And the fact that he kept up and had as many killings because him and Dritz were having their own little side competition there. So he had was responsible for as many killings as Dritz. So in Bruno's eyes... I think it showed him that Wolfgar's ready.
Bruno cried. Bruno cried. He's all like, "Oh,
I'm so proud of my boy."
I did a little crying emoji face thing. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, yeah. It's fun because at some point when they're sitting there in the caves and Bruno bursts in with beer. By the way, I wrote it down. When he burst in, he already had beer. Yep. He had already started the party. They were gonna stay in the cave, and
that was the plan.
It's like, okay, we're all staying in the cave.
Right. They're gonna.
And Wolfgar's like, but I'm not staying with whatever. And then Bruno's like, well, don't you be thinking you're going to be sleeping with the girl. No. And he's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, I'm actually leaving you guys. Like, I'm done.
I wasn't expecting that. I definitely wasn't. And even in my mind, I wasn't sure, like, where is he going? What is his plan? What is he doing? And at the end, I felt like that should have been obvious to me, but it really wasn't. I was like, because to me, Wolfgar still seems so young. This is really his first, like, first couple battles, and relatively small ones. So I wasn't expecting him to have all these big plans that, he's going out to do just yet. So in my mind, I was like, what is he up to? He's still a baby. You know, Brunor's crying over here about his little boy all grown up. So in my mind, I was like, no, like, he's got time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he's off to, we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, after all that's going. By the way, something interesting I wrote down, doesn't really matter. I thought it was just cool that they were making a pot of soup later on inside the skull of a fur pig.
I thought that was kind of risky. Yeah, I was like, you want to eat their brains? I feel like
I don't think they were eating the brain.
Weren't they eating the brain?
No. I think they hollowed out the skull.
They were using it like a pot.
Using it like a pot, yeah. No, I don't think they were eating the brain.
They were eating the brains because Brunor makes a joke about, you know, how a barnyard goose tastes better than like a wild goose because it doesn't use its muscles. Well, that's why their brains taste better. Because the joke is they don't use their brains. Yeah, they don't use their brains.
I mean, I must have like been somewhere else when my eyes went over those words. They must have. Is there the equivalent of going in one eye and out the other? You know, so going in the yeah. But yeah, I mean, I didn't catch that, but maybe they were eating the brains. I just thought it was amusing that they were using it like, oh, they're so resourceful. They're using the skull as a pot. You know, very quick thinking. But no, if they were eating the brain, then that's.
Hold on, I am looking. You keep going. I just want to find this.
Well, I mean. It wasn't anything like earth-shattering. I just thought that was interesting. But
Kemp, first of all, so Kemp is the leader of Targos, which is the one that told Regis, like, no, halfling, get down, don't look at him. I won't fall for your tricks. That's who Kemp. I can't remember his name.
You know what though? In that interaction, when Regis was done speaking, and they're like, you know how I said earlier, I mean, we haven't talked about Regis in a long time, but I didn't quite trust him. Something's a bit off, right?
Off.
So something that he said in this chapter, after everyone stopped, you know, they didn't band together, he said something along the lines of, you guys deserve what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
You get what you deserve.
Right.
So you get what you deserve is like, that's something the Joker said. Like he's starting to like.
I see. So you're saying that as like he's showing lack of empathy, because I didn't really think much. I didn't think much of it. I just thought I was like, he's frustrated.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's just
on the personality. It could be somebody's really frustrated, but they still try harder.
Well, he was also kind of making excuses for stealing the pendant,
right? It could be someone just like, that's just.
You know, I don't like it.
I'm very curious to see where he goes.
He's I guess maybe not a loose cannon, but he's a loose end in the story, type of thing. It's like it's something that I feel like is gonna screw everything. Like when everything is going well, he might just. Yeah.
I would think of. I would never think Brunor, Dritz, Wolfgar would do anything to put the others in risk. Regis, I feel like he walks that line where if it's in his benefit, I would be afraid of him risking the other's safety for something that's in his benefit.
Yeah, for sure. It's I'm not feeling safe with him. Also, because we haven't seen him much, it's like he kind of feels sneaky. We haven't
and we haven't seen him in very stressful situations. Usually, in all the fighting, Regis is hiding under a dead barbarian.
Yeah, using the pendant to manipulate them.
Somewhere else. Yeah, and so he really hasn't shown how loyal or how he is in the fixed situation.
Yeah, and one thing I'm worried, like that pendant seems to be able to break Akar Kessel's spell on the orcs, so that he can like interrogate them. So how I'm thinking maybe because he's a bit more clever, if Akar Kessel kind of steps down, dies, whatever, Ertu takes over, and then suddenly Regis is like his general or something. That just kind of seems like recipe for disaster.
That would be good. Because then Brunor, Dritz, Wolfgar, Catabri, Guinevere up against Regis, their old friend, that would be wild. It didn't even cross my mind, but that would be heartbreaking. And I would want to read the crap out of that.
Yeah. And speaking of Akar Castle, he's finally invading. Yeah, the wait is over. He's like, okay, I'm...
Everybody's fed up with him. Ertu, Crinshinaban are like tired of waiting for him to finally make a move because, you know, they're still giving him the idea that he's in the lead. And yeah, so now that he finds out that he hadn't gotten back word from the
patrol.
Verbeeg.
So he's like, okay, well,
so now,
if I keep waiting, I might lose more. So the time, you know, the horns are going, and now it's like, well, they've been building up the army, but now they're marching towards 10 towns.
Right.
So, you know, the clock is ticking.
10 towns is like, no, it's like the last knucklehead trout of the season. We have to fish. We're not going to stop.
Yeah. You know,
it's like
you know
the
what I mean?
Sims over there.
Yeah, the Sims just kind of arguing with each other.
About something that it's like, okay, we'll put it into perspective because in your day-to-day life, yes, the end of the season is huge. But also your life, it would be pretty important to keep so you could continue to fish. So how about, you know, you get ready for the invasion? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I mean, it's survival, you know.
Yeah.
There's
do you
priorities.
Want to just fish this season, or do you want to fish for years to come? Because that's basically what we're looking at. So, and then, the epilogue. Are we ready to get to the epilogue? Talking about what Wolfgar was up to when he took off and left, the group that are seeking shelter in the dwarf mines.
Yeah, I'm picturing this kind of like Lion King moment. I remember like Simba's like running back from his Hakuna Matata. What? Simba's running away from wherever he was living with Timon and Pumbaa, and it's like time to go back to. And it's like it's a
he's
moment.
A man.
Yeah, it's like a slow motion type of like heroic music, but he's alone doing this journey. Yeah. But I guess he's not alone because
Drizzt is running with him.
Drizzt is like. It says Wolfgar is. It's the way it's described. It makes you think that Wolfgar is alone, but then at the very end, he's like, and Drizzt was right next to him the whole time, type
just
of thing.
in the shadow.
But
because he's not, he's not stealing the thunder. You know, he's not taking the limelight. He's just in the shadow.
Yeah, he's just following him, protecting him. But Wolfgar, he's wanting to be a man now, and he wants to go back to his. This is what I'm assuming. He wants to go back to his tribe, but. Bunch of gnats, by the way.
Like I'm
not going to show up on camera, so we're like to you.
You'll just see us like.
Yeah, I'll add like a little a thing here so that you guys for context.
We have a lot of plants in here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wolfgar is going back to the barbarians.
Yeah, he's going back to them, and it sounds like he's trying to convince them to change their ways, and the way he has to do that is by doing something really, really, really impressive.
Well, I think he wants to be the leader of them. He wants to
be the leader. Basically, he wants to be Taruk Makto, is what I wrote down. Well, Avatar, the big banshee thing where it's like, now the tribe trusts you type of thing.
Yes.
Well, he's like, he has to do something drastic so that they
accept
him. Follow him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember now. So he has no right he has no right to challenge their leader.
Oh, because he doesn't have a blood right.
Right, he doesn't have a blood right. So even if he killed him, it wouldn't right. So it has to be something he has to go above and beyond.
So to earn that ability to challenge for leadership, he is going off to the lair of Ingeloa Castamezilian, the white dragon.
Ingeloa Castamezilian.
The barbarians simply call Icingdeath.
Icingdeath.
So we could just call her Icingdeath from now.
Her? Is it a her?
We don't know.
Okay.
No pronouns have been used. The white dragon, named Icingdeath. So
now this is where I was like, this is full on Game of Thrones. I text you like, you got to read this. So we're
poor you. You had to wait for me to catch up because we couldn't talk.
Yeah, we can't talk. No water coolers.
Well, also, too, we really do try to save the conversation, even though you're usually almost always ahead of me in the reading. But even when there's something you're like, get to this point so we can talk about it, we still try to save all of the talking for this so that everything we say is fresh. Obviously, we're thinking this out as we go. So we really do try to
Obviously,
save
clearly,
all the
yeah.
all the
No one's questioning whether that's true by this point if they've been watching us.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Icingdeath.
Icingdeath. Now
So
this
we have
is something.
dragons.
Yeah, we have dragons. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so there's no like dragon on the cover here or anything, but on the audiobook there seems to be like a little sliver of like something that looks dragon-esque, and I never wanted to like look into it because of spoilers, and I'm like, okay, now that makes sense. Now I know why.
Don't Google anything.
Yeah, why? Like I'm not gonna screw myself over. But I had seen mutterings of some dragonings in the pipeline.
Oh really?
Yeah, just when
just
I'm
in the air. Okay.
Well, yeah,
I'm looking like in the sky of the book cover to see if there's like a shadow. Like it's not a bird, it's dragon.
But here's the thing: I'm not also trying to spoil what I've seen, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna be a traditional dragon. It seems more like it looked a bit more like a white. Okay. Done. Done. Goodbye. Bye. Partly chill, partly literate. Bye. Well, no. I mean, everyone watching this obviously knows, but from what I've seen, it's that's all I'll say for now.
I'm very curious. So
I'm sure we'll get to it pretty soon.
Again, add it to the list of monsters. We have the giant snakes. Now we're getting dragons. And so, God, I'm getting excited because I love dragons. Who doesn't love
dragons, right? You can't have fantasy without dragons.
A dragon, yeah. We're going to find out so much. I hope this dragon becomes like a very big part of the story because I'd love to know all about it.
Yeah,
is
it
it
seems
fire
a bit
breathing?
is
it the two-legged one with the hands as the wings, or is it the four-legged
ones
but
with
this
the
is a bit wings?
Can I poke some fun at you a little bit?
Yes.
At what point does the name Icingdeath suggest that it's a fire-breathing dragon? Maybe Ingila and Cassimazillion kind of have something flaming.
Maybe it burns so hot it feels cold. It's the blue flame. It's so hot, it's blue. Well, what's he going to do? Steam them to death? Icingdeath? What does that mean? Icingdeath.
Freeze them to death?
Steam them. Or, yeah, freeze them. Like, steam freeze.
Steam freeze?
That's what I'm picturing. Because you said, at what point does Icingdeath suggest fire? So then I'm like, okay, well, what's the alternative? Like, it's going to blow steam and then it's going to freeze?
But that's still not fire. It would be called steaming death.
Well, okay, so why don't you answer your own question? How do you think?
No, you're the one who said it's a fire-breathing dragon. I have no point. I've seen what it looks like is what I'm trying to say. Well, no, that's not what I'm trying to say.
Wait. So
I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Do you know how it kills? Has that been spoiled for you? Do you know how it kills?
No. But
so then, what does the name Icingdeath?
Icingdeath. Well, I mean, have you seen Frozen? I mean,
no.
Just now you're in a block of ice. Just I'm spitting ice at you instead of I'm breathing fire at you.
Well, I made 2 steps out of 1. Instead of the steam freezing, it's just the freezing. Because I'm thinking, like, you can't just shoot out ice. It's hard. Ice is hard. So you have to shoot out steam.
Well, you can shoot like
water.
I mean, I'm sure they don't have liquid nitrogen. I'm sure that's not what they call it.
I don't know the
but
scientific process. It's like throwing the boiling water in the snow, and you see how it freezes. Have you seen those videos on YouTube?
Yeah, yeah. But
that's what I'm picturing. That's where my mental imagery is coming from.
So you're picturing Icingdeath as throwing boiling water that freezes. That sort of works.
You make it sound worse. There's nothing really that makes sense in my head, so we don't have to pick it apart because it's a house of cards. It's gonna.
It's a dragon, so it's not like we have to
forget the flame.
Oh no, that's not how dragons work, Mr. Salvatore. I don't think you've done your homework.
What's this based off of?
Yeah.
No, because a dragon, no fire, no ice, whatever, it still has teeth.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be terrifying.
So. Yeah.
Icingdeath.
I mean, with a name like Icingdeath, it's the death that's the more important part. I don't really care if it's ice or fire.
There's no space. That's one word, Icingdeath.
Yeah.
So, okay, I look forward to that then. Yay!
Yay.
So, Wolfgar's taking on the dragon. He's gonna come in like, what's the guy you said from Avatar?
Taruk Makto. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping. We'll get this big scene of him coming down with the dragon in front of all his people, and Mr. Heafstag, Mr. Heaf is gonna be out there.
Yeah, hopefully.
And we're gonna have the challenge for the tribe of the elk.
Yeah, the barbarians will hopefully, side with 10 towns with Wolfgar's intervention. And then with Icingdeath, with the barbarians, and then hopefully with them banding together, if they get convinced, they might stand a chance.
Yeah, a dragon on their side now because Akkar Kessel's got everybody else.
Yeah, so now it's sort of an even playing field, but that doesn't guarantee anything because, like I said before, we could just flip on a dime.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah. Who knows what he's going to get offered by Kessel,
Who?
Regis. Like, it wouldn't take a lot for him to be convinced to switch sides.
No.
Especially
I
like
don't
that
have
pendant.
That much faith in him. So I hope I'm proven wrong in that because there are so many other places that there will be conflict.
He has like a contract on him too, right? He's being wanted.
Yes.
So
by the leader of all the thieves that he used to be a part of, the group of thieves.
Yeah, how'd you like to never have to worry about where you live again? Mm-hmm. And you see these women here, and like, how'd you like to not have to pay taxes on your fishing thing or whatever,
So then at the end of this, it says, I did take a glance. The next page says part 3. So I have a feeling that since we're going to be starting a new part in the next chapter, there might be a little bit of a jump. There might be
because there was last time
shift in focus. So I'm curious to see what it means by epilogue. Wolfgar is off to get the dragon, and then now it says part 3. So it's like, that's so final.
Yeah, I also think I was mistaken when I assumed there was 4 parts. I think there's only 3. I think we're 2/3 into the book by now. I'm not 100%, but just looking
it's pretty close, yeah.
Right? I mean, you can't really tell,
that
but
doesn't help.
Yeah, part 3.
It's pretty close.
I don't really see a part 4.
200. So we're on page 205 out of 343 pages. So just under 66%.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's like an index or something, but there's the map too. Yeah.
So what do you want to... Any final thoughts?
Well, I guess my final thoughts is that now this has jumped up a lot in terms of what's possible. Because once dragons comes into it, like that's like the complete like fantasy package.
Oh, now we're getting into it.
Yeah, because it's like there's a few things that a fantasy story has to check off. Dragons isn't 100% like necessary, but I mean. They all have dragons. There's always a dragon, you know what I mean? There's Game of Thrones and there's Harry Potter and there's Lord of the Rings and they all have dragons and...
The big one, yeah, that's pretty huge in fantasy, I think.
Aragon.
It's not necessary, but it's huge.
It's just,
it's a big part of the culture, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we have the complete, like, package. We got dwarfs and elves and
giants.
Hammers, and now we have... dragons too, so
you said hammers.
Well, yeah, hammers. Fighting and slashing and burning.
I wasn't
and all
expecting
that,
to be like the top
the
5
fantasy
of the list.
A hammer. But I meant hammer as in just like all your weapons and your magical throwing axes and so. Yeah, right. That's where we're at right now.
Let's see what happens.
Part 3 to come.
Just finished part 2. All right, I'm ready.
Ready. Bye-bye.
Bye.